Hey guys, welcome to Camping with Steve. Out here with beautiful wife, just getting our main base camp set up for this round of camping. This is closer to town, a lot less chance of bears around here, but we're still going to be cautious.
He seemed calm, quirky, and harmless, but that was only half the story. Wallis made millions smile with stealth camping videos, but that gentle persona masked a storm of personal tragedy, quiet suffering, and a reality far darker than his fans ever imagined. This isn't just a story about sleeping outdoors. It's about grief, survival, and the dark reality that quietly unfolded on camera, one that he never meant to expose.
It is warmer than it was last night. My phone is saying it's about minus 6 degrees Celsius right now. Last night, closer to 16 below.
Steve was born on September 10th, 1981, in Victoria, British Columbia. Growing up surrounded by the vast Canadian wilderness, nature was beyond a backdrop. It was a necessity. Life eventually led him deeper into the outdoors, not as a weekend escape, but as a way of living. In 2011, he quit his job, bought an old RV, and started living off-grid. There were no power hookups, running water, or campground luxuries. Just a rugged lifestyle known as boondocking, survival stripped to the basics. While social media was busy romanticizing van life, Steve was quietly living something which was far more real, raw, unpredictable, and at times brutally honest. But for him, it was freeing. He kept things simple. A few part-time jobs, barely enough money to scrape by, and a camera to document his experiences, not for fame, rather for fun.
Let's go register and walk around this campsite a bit. Then we'll get a fire going. Looks like we could see a storm. A little rain tonight, maybe, possibly. Who knows? Let's see what happens.
His YouTube channel, which he started in 2010, was filled with goofy experiments and casual vlogs. That is until one bitterly cold winter night changed everything.
Unfortunately, we couldn't get it tested in the supreme cold weather that came barreling through. It's usually we get a week or two of that minus 35 Celsius or minus 40. And we'll see what happens with the weather, because they got the weasel that predicts the weather, and it either saw its shadow or didn't, or whatever it's supposed to see, it saw.
The video wasn't flashy or well edited. It was shot at 32 degrees Celsius with a thin sleeping bag and a tiny propane stove, but it struck a chord. Viewers weren't looking for another perfectly curated travel vlog. They found something more meaningful in Steve's quiet resilience: a man, a can of beans, and the will to make it through the night. That was the moment everything clicked. The video gained traction, and Steve leaned in, discovering a niche that felt like home: stealth camping. But stealth camping is beyond just hiding in the woods. It's setting up camps where you're least expected, under bridges, behind buildings, in parking lots, or abandoned spaces. It's risky, discreet, but oddly peaceful. Steve took this hidden lifestyle and turned it into a kind of gentle art. In one unforgettable video, he camped in an old Cold War nuclear bunker. In another, he insulated a U-Haul truck and braved a minus 35 degrees Celsius Canadian winter. These were stunts, but they were also masterclasses in creativity, simplicity, and grit. And the real magic was Steve himself. His videos followed a calm, familiar rhythm. Step 1, he'd say, set up your shelter. Then came Step 2, crack a cold beer. It became a ritual that thousands of fans grew to love. He never claimed to be a survival expert. If anything, he embraced his mistakes, fighting with a tent, battling snowstorms, or accidentally dropping dinner in the snow, and that's what made him relatable. Fans watched and they got inspired. They started camping in their backyards, their cars, even trying stealth camping themselves, because Steve made it feel doable. His impact reached far beyond YouTube. On Reddit, especially in the subreddit, people shared their own stories, stealth adventures, and camping photos inspired by him. One user described his videos as a warm blanket in video form. Another said they started stealth camping behind a library after binge-watching his channel. In a world full of pressure and perfection, Steve offered something grounding, an escape, a moment of calm, even therapy. Some viewers said his videos helped them through anxiety, divorce, or depression. That's not something you often hear about a camping channel. In 2017, Steve married Jess, the woman he lovingly called his beautiful wife. She didn't appear on camera often, but her presence was always felt. Through quiet gestures, kind mentions, and the warmth in his stories, it was clear she was his anchor. They built a simple but meaningful life together, grounded in love and shared values. But then, everything changed. On August 20th, 2022, just days after their wedding anniversary, Jess passed away suddenly in her sleep. Steve shared the heartbreaking news in the rawest, most honest way.
This is the hardest video I've ever had to film, so I'm just going to take my time and pour my heart out a little bit here. On Saturday, beautiful wife and I went to bed. On Sunday, only I woke up. So, the last, I don't know how many days, it's been an absolute shock. Everybody knows that I could get a hold of, that are personal friends, and now it's time to let another million people know.
On Saturday, my beautiful wife and I went to bed, he said. On Sunday, only I woke up. The grief wasn't his alone, but his entire community grieved with him. Condolences poured in, donations were made to food banks in Jess's name, a cause she deeply cared about, and fans shared how Steve's content had helped them during their own hardest moments. That same year, he also lost his mother to cancer, but the heartbreak didn't stop there. In early 2024, Glenn, known affectionately as Crazy Neighbor, a dear friend who often appeared as comic relief during Steve's camps, also passed away after a battle with illness. A fan shared on Reddit, his wife, his mother, and now one of his closest friends, Steve, is a warrior monk. Losing Glenn erased the final personal thread, linking Steve to what he once called the golden era of his channel. The man who built a life from solitude and found solace in friendship was suddenly faced with a profound silence, and yet the bond with his audience held him steady. In just a few months, Steve lost the three people closest to him, but through all the heartbreak, he stayed true to what he always had been: honest, humble, and quietly resilient. How do you keep going after that kind of loss? Where does the strength come from to hit record again? For a while, Steve stepped away from YouTube. The channel that once documented off-grid survival now became a symbol of emotional endurance. When he returned, it wasn't with grandeur or fanfare, but with the same honesty that made people fall in love with his content in the first place. He camped again, cooked simple meals again, and he cracked open another cold beer, but this time in the memory of Jess. He also asked fans to continue honoring her by contributing to the causes she loved. His comeback wasn't just a personal victory, it was a communal moment of healing. Fans wrote messages of support, like they were speaking to a friend. Some even said his videos had become part of their weekly therapy, and slowly, Steve began to smile again. While he never fully returned to the version of himself before 2022, he emerged stronger, more grounded, and perhaps even more grateful. As one fan said, "Watching Steve feels like visiting an old friend. You laugh, you relax, and you remember what really matters." Steve Wallis didn't set out to be a hero, but in a world obsessed with aesthetic perfection, he offered something more meaningful: realism. He's built a channel not on luxury, but on loyalty, not on exclusivity, but on empathy. He's not pushing brand deals or high-end gear. His income comes primarily from ad revenue, donations, his famous beer fund, and a modest merchandise line on his website, Camping with Steve. He still films with the same humble spirit, just a tarp, a tent, and a few tools. That's not regression, but resilience. Behind the laid-back charm and peaceful tone of Steve Wallis's videos lies a far darker reality that rarely gets fully unpacked. While many admire his ability to turn an abandoned alleyway into a cozy overnight retreat, few realize just how close to the edge he once lived. For a time, this wasn't quirky content creation. It was survival. He's hinted at sleeping in fear of being discovered, of nights spent freezing inside a van without insulation, of quietly boiling hot dogs in parking lots while pretending everything was fine. It's this blurred line between adventure and desperation that gives his content its strange magnetism. Yes, there have been critics. Some have accused him of cosplaying homelessness or glamorizing poverty, but Steve has addressed those critiques with characteristic grace, emphasizing that his goal has always been to make camping feel possible, not pitiful. His adventures don't mock hardship. They illuminate how to find peace despite it. In doing so, he's reclaimed camping for everyone, and not just the elite. Today, Steve's channel has over 1.78 million subscribers and more than 307 million total views. But the numbers aren't the story. The real impact lies in the lives he's touched, the viewers he's inspired to try camping for the first time, the families who bonded over his videos, and the countless people who found solace in his gentle voice during their own storms. As of mid-2025, Steve continues to upload regularly. He's experimented with new formats, including collaborative videos with other YouTubers and live Q&A sessions with fans. While still grounded in stealth camping, he's begun lightly touching on topics like mental wellness and sustainable living. His beer fund remains active, and his recent uploads show him gradually returning to a more joyful state. He's also hinted at a book project and is currently exploring international stealth camping locations. Through it all, his core remains unchanged, honest, calm, and deeply connected to his audience. Maybe that's the real definition of legacy. It's not what you build, but what you leave behind in people's hearts. Steve Wallis is more than just a man who camps. He's someone who's weathered the storms of life with quiet strength and unflinching honesty. Through grief, hardship, and humble beginnings, he's proven that resilience is steady, kind, and deeply human.